when the rains are failing, you should have been doing irrigation to mitigate the situation. But then almost all the rivers in the cocoa grain areas are polluted. Cocoa Board Manu went to the African Development Bank to secure some $600 million US. Eventually, you have to return 250 million USD. Part of that money was intended for irrigation. We commissioned the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority to do a pre-appraisal for us, assessment. And the report they brought was that almost all the rivers were contaminated. And you cannot use that murky, muddy water to do anything with cocoa. You cannot use it for spraying. And these days, farmers have to, transport water from the house in Aboboya to the farms, making farming even very expensive. Mm-hmm. Previously, the farmer gets to the nearest stream around the farm, and then he fetches the water to do the mass spraying and all that. But now, you dare not, because the leaves have pulses, which we call the stomata. And once you spray this muddy water onto it, the mud is going to block, this stomata. And within a short time, you find all the leaves coming down. Mm-hmm. The trees will die. You cannot also use it for irrigation, because it means that you have to be changing your filters almost every day. You have to be changing. It will be so expensive. And you can also use boreholes because they are not reliable. Elsewhere, anywhere you've gone, Ecuador, Peru, even Brazil, which is now about to rejuvenate its cocoa distance, they are depending on running water, surface running water, that's rivers, to do irrigation. Why can't we do same here? All because of galamsey. Mm-hmm. Galamsey is not only affecting the water that the cocoa farms will need, it's also affecting even the microclimate, the ecosystem of the place. Because, cocoa doesn't like too much water, as mm-hmm. I've indicated. Mm-hmm. So it's best on well-drained land. And therefore, the adjoining swamps, as cultivate to cocoa. Mm. And the swamps are a reservoir. They are themselves a reservoir of water. Nature's own wisdom has created them as huge reservoirs that contain water. And during the dry season, evaporation from these swamps actually impact on the cocoa. Well, in the morning, when you're going to the cocoa farm, you have a lot of, dew falling on the cocoa. Mm-hmm. And the stomata absorb, mm-hmm. and then you see the cocoa trees always evergreen, flourishing. They don't just shed their leaves, unlike maybe in the temperate areas whereby during the winter you go there, all trees are shed. No, you don't see these things on cocoa farms. But what is happening is that the first target of illegal miners will be the swamp. Mm-hmm. That's where
the swamp around the cocoa.
The swamp around the cocoa, adjoining the cocoa farm. So that's where they go and mine. And once they excavate, they create a pit, a deep pit mm-hmm. there. One, the ecosystem has been disrupted, completely destroyed. So that macro climate is no more. Number two, the moisture, the water under the cocoa trees, will then drain. Because once you create a pit, there's a dip. So water under the cocoa trees, that the soil water moisture will drain into the pit. If cocoa is not going to have a future, it's not going to play any role in Ghana's future, that's tomorrow, then it will be illegal mining. Because if it wasn't illegal mining, climate change can be mitigated mm-hmm. through irrigation.
And that is the head of the Ghana Cocoa Board there lamenting the situation, Joseph Baidu, about what exactly, how illegal mining is destroying our cocoa. But the question is, how did we get here and where do we go from there? Joining me on this conversation, there's Isaac Ofieje. He's our data analyst here at Joy News. We also have Edward Karawe. He is General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. Both of them join me for a conversation. But gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Before we get into the substantive issue, though, right before we came here, because I also heard you reacting, the limited voter registration exercise and some of the skirmishes, ugly scenes we've seen, Mr. Karawe, in about a minute. What do you have to share about them before we get to the substantive issues?
Well, I think that it's unfortunate that we are experiencing this, but it speaks volumes about the type of governance that we have, the type of leadership that we have, and whether or not our leaders are in control of the economy and the people. You know, one of the fundamental, responsibilities of a leader is to manage both the human resources and the natural resources. We have failed in managing our natural resources. We have also failed in managing our human resources. So how could they not have been able to prevent something like this? You know, which leader is responsible for the limited voter registration? Which leader is responsible for ensuring that there's peace at the polling station? Why is it that it was not dealt with? So certainly it's a complete failed state, system.
Failed state system.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, thank you for those initial thoughts. Let's get right into the nitty-gritty of what exactly has been happening and how we got here. Isaac Ofieje, I know our Cocoa series is also in the offing, but tell us about the facts and figures in respect of what the Cocoa Board CEO has been saying.
Well, so just like you said, we are running a Cocoa series. Today we are starting with the, why the prices are up, but the farmer is not really profiting. And then tomorrow we'll start talking about the profitability of the Cocoa Board as a body. And I would like to start with this. You remember when the IMF put out the program document, there was something that caught my attention. And I would like to read. It says, Ghana's collateralized debt is entirely held by China. It corresponds to 4 loan agreements signed in 2007 to 2018 that amounted to $619 million to finance infrastructure. These are collateralized against cocoa, bauxite, oil, and electricity sales. So we have some 4 loans that we have collateralized, and these are the resources or the mineral resources and some, crops that we've used as
basically the backbone of our economy. Absolutely. And even more worrying, electricity, yes. Power.
Yes, and cocoa is one of them. But we may have had hopes that cocoa will continue to be one of the backbones of our economy. But if you look at the data, it doesn't look like it is the same anymore. While Ivory Coast is currently having around 45% of the world's cocoa production, we have now moved from the 20s now to 13. And gradually, if you look at the projections that are coming out, we could be hitting 10% of the world production, possibly by 2025. Now, I've been looking at the data.
We could be hitting 10%.
10% of the world.
While Ivory Coast is around 40+%.
45, yes.
I followed the data since the 1950s. There was this thing I stumbled upon on LinkedIn and followed the data from the 1950s and how, at a point, Côte d'Ivoire was not the highest producer. Yes. Brazil has been the highest producer at a point. And then the differences, but we've never been so far away from the Ivory Coast. You're telling me that per the projections, by 2025, we could be hitting 10%.
Well, if you could show the gap analysis that we've done on the screen, maybe our viewers will appreciate what we are talking about. The fact that Ivory Coast is now producing 2.3 million and now about 1.8 because of what we are all experiencing, metric tons. We are doing 580,000 metric tons. And even that one, we are not so sure that we'll hit this target. So day in and day out, the gap between us and the Ivory
keeps widening.
Keeps widening. And Ecuador keeps catching up.
That is the point. I remember in one of my blunt thoughts, I shared it. The South American countries, there was this, I think, swollen shoot
disease
many decades ago that made a lot of them
and they had the El
But now they are ramping it up
El
again. And Ecuador especially is catching up big time.
Yeah.
And we are sitting on our rear. We are sitting on our buttocks, as these countries catch up. And with galamsey and everything we're doing, it's only a matter of time. But walk us through the rest of the data.
Well, so just like you said, currently it's Ivory Coast that's sitting on top as number 1 with about 2 million metric tons a year. And then Ghana is number 2. We are looking around, the projection was 680,000 metric tons, but now we are doing way less than that. There's Ecuador who is not catching up. Now that the El Nino is over, they are hoping to surpass their 365,000 metric tons, and followed by Cameroon. There's also Nigeria, which is also catching up.
Yeah.
And there's Brazil, all in the mix. But today we want to focus on why the cocoa prices, we know that at a point hit more than $10,000 dollars.
Just about $10,000.
Yes. So why is it that the farmer is not really benefiting? This is the first time per the data that we've analyzed that the farmer has enjoyed 2, increments in farm gate prices. The first one was, I think, 68%, 64%. And we had another 50% increment. So they've enjoyed more than 100% increment in one season. But the reason why they are not really getting what they are supposed to get is because we do what we call the forward sales.
Right.
So before the cocoa beans even arrive, we sell them, in advance and get the money. And that's why the Cocoa Board has become the backbone of the economy, because the money we get, or the cocoa syndicated loans we get in advance, that is what usually we use to shore up the city. In 2022, when the economy was facing a lot of crisis and we couldn't get monies from the international capital market, it was Cocoa Board and other loans, the 750 million loan that we got, that saved the economy to some extent. But now, you heard the Cocoa Board CEO there, that some of the monies they took that they could have used to support the economy, they had to return it because they can't use it for the purpose that they went for that money. If they keep it, they are going to pay high interest on it, and Cocoa Board will keep racking up debt. And under the IMF program, they've been restrained from doing certain things like that. But before the farmer even got that 46% rise in farm gate price, we were pegging the cocoa price as the forest sales were doing $1,000, I think more than a little close to $1,900 per ton. Then we sell the cocoa with this price, giving the farmer a portion of that money. Then we saw that the prices have now risen to $10,000. We do not have control over it because we've sold that cocoa in advance.
You've already sold it.
The best we can do is to supervise for them not to hoard.
Right.
Now, we have the cocoa beans.
So are you saying that even when the prices increase, because the prices have taken a tumble now.
Yes.
They've taken a tumble, sharp tumble. But when the price increased because of our syndicated loan, where you are not selling the cocoa in real time, but you are getting the money in advance, we did not benefit.
We did not benefit.
Right.
It is countries like, maybe I'll say companies in the Netherlands. They have been able to carve a niche for themselves. They become the middleman in Europe.
Right.
Where both Ghana and Ivory Coast all sell more than 20% of their cocoa beans to the Netherlands.
Right.
And they will become the middleman and now, redistribute to other parts in Europe. Formerly, it didn't used to be like that. We used to sell directly to the UK, to other countries. But right now, we sell almost everything to the Netherlands, and they become the middleman. And so when they have the cocoa and the price go up, they benefit, and we, the ones that we have the cocoa.
So in other words, they get the bumper harvest, so to speak, of money.
Absolutely. And the reason why it doesn't look good for the farmers going into the next season that we are all preparing is that we're hoping that the price will still stay around, let's say, $9,000 or $10,000 per ton.
And that way, for the next window,
but
then
yes,
they would actually.
Then it means that if you have that benchmark, then cocoa farmers can now enjoy a bigger portion when it comes to farm gate price. But the international traders are beginning to realize that if they allow cocoa to be benchmarked around 9,000 or 10,000, they will be on the losing side.
Right.
So they've decided to hold on with their purchases, which means that any funding they were doing last season or last 2 seasons, they are holding on to that, hoping that when the demand comes down and supply is still high, what happens to price? Price will go down.
In other words, the international system is still working against us. But let's quickly look at the rest of the data, and then I'll come to Mr. Karewe in the studio. So walk us through the rest of the data.
So if you look at the rest of the data, we are looking at, tomorrow we'll be looking at Cocoa Board's, finance, their financials, and the fact that the last time Cocoa Board actually made profit was 2015. And it's supposed to be the mother body that's actually supervising all of this. And it's true that they are handicapped with some of the things that is going on, like galamsey activities. And the fact that right now, Cocoa Board has been restricted from doing so many things. And I want to run you through this. Now, there are certain
let's
things
quickly do that.
they've been restricted from doing under the IMF program. So, one, Cocoa Board can no longer do the fertilizer provision at the scale that they used to do it because of the IMF program, because they sense that there's some sort of, corruption activities going on in there. There's rural roads development that usually helps with the transportation of the cocoa beans. They are no longer going to do that. Mass spraying of cocoa farms, Cocoa Board is being restricted. Providing high yield seedlings to farmers, that's one too, has been restricted. Then the rehabilitation of cocoa roads. All of these things, if you count them, they are about 5, and they are key to our harvest. All of these things, because of the current nature or the fiscal position of Cocoa Board, they've been restricted from doing all of this. So, Ben, these are first findings from the research that we are doing. It is a series, and tomorrow we'll be bringing you the aspects where we talk about Cocoa Boards.
So, Kofi, let's go on the slides one by one. I just want us to quickly address the slides so that we can follow sequentially and then just situate the conversation before I bring in Mr. Karewe.
All right, so we start with the first slide that you see on your screens. These are some of the factors that are affecting Ghana's cocoa, yields. The reason why we've moved from millions to now 1,000 metric tons. The first one we've been talking about it is smuggling. Then we also have the swollen shoot disease that's not only affecting Ghana, but Ivory Coast and other countries as well. And there's one peculiar problem that possibly maybe is only Ghana's problem, which is galamsey activities. I'm sure that Mr. Karewe will talk about it a lot because it is really affecting us. And SBM Intelligence did an analysis or a study on this. And you could see that farmers are now beginning to sell their lands to miners. And they take as low as, let's say, 50,000 Ghana cedis and sell, let's say, 4 or 5 acres of land to galamseyers. And then they take that money because they feel that, they are better off taking the money now than a cocoa industry that maybe they feel is not profitable anymore. There is also one finding from the SBM Intelligence research that the inheritance system is no longer also helping the cocoa industry, where a father who is a farmer now passes his cocoa farm to a son who doesn't feel that he wants to be a farmer. What does he do? He either sells the cocoa farm to miners or decides to convert it to another thing. And there's also the climate issue where, it has affected the yields as well. And then there's the overaged cocoa trees that Cocoa Board has already spoken about. Then we talk about the yields, where we've moved from over 1 million now to 580,000. This is even a projection. And there are estimates that shows that we could even go below 500,000 metric tons by the end of this, season. Then we also have our share in terms of the fact that maybe somewhere around 2020, 2021, we're holding about 20% of the world production of cocoa. Now we are talking about just 13%. And current research by SBM Intelligence and others show that we may be hitting 10%, possibly by 2025. If you look at all of these factors that we've spoken about in the first slide. Then you see the gap analysis that we were talking about, if you can put that one on your screens, where there's that widening gap between Ghana in red and Ivory Coast in green. Even when Ivory Coast is falling, they are falling from 2.3 million metric tons to 1.8. But we are falling from 556,000 to now 580,000. And even when we are falling...
You just said 4, but you're mentioning 550 to 580. We hit 1 million, and there's been a steady decline, 683, 654, and then now 580.
And even this figure...
And this is a conservative figure.
Yeah, and possibly may even go below 500,000. And Ivory Coast is still within the 1 million, the million zone. But we have moved from that. The last time we hit that was 2020, 2021 season. Then just look at this. In terms of the share, who holds the biggest...
So maybe that'll be the final bit before I get to... Yeah.
And that one also shows a widening gap between us and the Ivory Coast. You can see a uniform distribution. They've been consistent, and then the figure has been, constant.
In the mid-40s throughout.
Absolutely, for Ivory Coast. But on the other hand, in Ghana, we've been moving between 20 and now we are doing just close to 13%. So that's actually the sad story of the cocoa industry in Ghana, Ben. And
well, stay for our cocoa series as well, as we will be bringing you that starting from today. But let me bring in Edward Carraway. And I do realize that we've taken a lot of time to just situate the conversation, but what does all of this mean in basic terms to the Ghanaian cocoa farmer? I want us to start from cocoa and then devolve into other areas of farming activity.
Well, Benjamin, the point is this. It's just like every farmer. Why do you produce? Two things. You produce for consumption or to make money out of it. When you look at cocoa...
Or for both.
Or for both. If you look at cocoa production, the entire country, we know that we don't consume cocoa. We hardly consume cocoa, the products. Why we produce cocoa is to export.
But the Cocoa Board boss was extolling even you will not fall sick and all of that. But we don't consume a lot of it here ourselves.
We started to produce for export. Now we think that we can process some of it. And you can see that rate is not impressive. It's not impressive. So to the farmer, all these things happening means that their basic livelihood is taken away forever. And once your basic livelihood is taken away forever, then you must find means to do other things. Either you migrate, those who are old enough and cannot migrate, they stay and die poor. Their children will migrate to the cities or engage in galamsey. That is just the effect of it. Because it's no more lucrative to be in cocoa production. And there are many factors which are real. Even the cocoa farmers who are patriotic and insist that they will not, sell their farms and they will stay with their farms, are forced to sell them out. They will flood your farms with all the dirty water. You cannot even enter the farm again. They could come there by force and take it. So you see, it's so pathetic and it's heartbreaking that we can sit down, allow such a monumental criminal act to continue. Not for today, there are some crimes when they are committed, the effect will be for today. But this one is against generations to come.
I dare say this is genocide against the future generation.
In fact,
genocide against the future generation. What we are doing to our land with galamsey and the rest, it is genocide against the future generation, Ghana's posterity, and our politicians are at the forefront.
So it's so serious, and cocoa is only one because it's the mainstay of the economy. We are seeing it. Today, we have to take a decision. We just have to take a decision today as to whether or not we want to still produce cocoa into the future. The signs are clear that we cannot go on for the next 2 years, in my view, the next 2 years, the rate at which cocoa production is being destroyed, the facilities, when you talk about the facilities here, cocoa is not grown everywhere in the country because of atmospheric humidity.
So you'd look at the Ahafo, those regions, Ashanti, Ahafo. You'd look at some parts of the Volta region and a few places extending towards the north, and that's it.
So you see that the cocoa tree is grown in the midst of other plantations. It needs plantation cover. It needs marshy or a certain humidity, and you can get that from the rivers. The river basins are all drying up. The forest is taken away. So you see that there will be so much heating in the area. And once there's so much heating, then the atmosphere will not be conducive again for cocoa production, even if there is no any other intervening factors like the Solemn Suit disease and so on.
And all that.
No, you will still have low production. And because, you see, we can't continue to produce cocoa in the traditional way that we do. And that is why the Cocoa Board intended to irrigate cocoa. Because we're then scaling up from the traditional method where the rains, when there are no rains, then you suffer the full rigor of the lack of rains, to a point where you can mitigate the effect by irrigating it. Now, it is clear that irrigation cannot take place in those areas because we have killed all the rivers. You see, the thing that sometimes for some of us is so wicked, not to ourselves and to our generation. We as human beings, our species, if we don't want ourselves, we should know that the environment, the other living organisms are all dying. Yeah. And let me ask this question. When we move to those galamsey areas, we'll go there with our bottled water, okay? Because the river, the water is no good, we'll drink. What about the other living organisms that go to the rivers to drink? The snakes, the insects. Because if we drink that river water, we will die. So they too will die. So we are killing all of them because they have no other source of livelihood apart from depending on the environment and then the rivers. And this is what we have done to ourselves. I think that the word genocide, we need a bigger word for that.
A bigger word?
Yes.
Beyond genocide?
Yeah. And it is the leaders today. Look, I'm saying that it is a deliberate policy. Policies can be those that you craft and those that you imply. If you see injustice happening and you put your face aside, then you are condoning that injustice. It is your policy to allow that injustice to go on. If we think that we don't want to stop galamsey, but that we don't have a policy that directly says that please go and do galamsey mining, but you see galamsey going on and destroying the rivers and killing children who are yet to be born, and you keep quiet, then that is another policy.
So even as we contemplate the dwindling fortunes of Ghana in cocoa production, and it is so steep, it's been very steep. I'm not even looking at the 20 to 13%. It's been very steep over time. What role do you see political leadership playing? Because time and again, we hear of the very people who are supposed to be protecting our natural resources themselves being pointed to as being complicit in this. How do we, because the very people who are supposed to enforce are the very people who every now and then are behind these activities?
You see, it's very difficult to catch the thief when it is the watchman, if it is the watchman who is stealing. Because he's the same person. We have entrusted the resources of this country into the hands of our leaders that have been vested with authority and power, that you and I do not have, to ensure that crime is not perpetuated. And it is those people, they use those powers and perpetuate the crime. You and I have not got the power to hold them on. We don't have. So the point is just about our leaders and nobody else. Look, let's just look at this simple scenario. Our governance system is so good that if we let it work, everybody will benefit. If you go to every region, there's a regional minister. All the government institutions, they have regional officers. You talk about the police, you talk about the BNI, you talk about all the security, they all have. Go to the district level, they all have those commanders. The president is represented in every district with an MC or whatever. All the other institutions are there. Do you want to tell me that they don't know what is happening? If they want to resolve it within 1 month, 2 months, it will be done. You see, it's just that.
So there's a lack of political will.
I won't say lack of political will. I will even say that it is political complacency. I mean, they are complicit in the act. It is not...
Oh, you mean political complicity? They are complicit in the act.
Complicity, yes.
They are involved in it.
They are involved in it. It is not only about the lack of the will. No, the lack of the will is you fail to act. But this one, it is not so. Because you see, I just sometimes get so much worried about you journalists, the type of work you do. You risk your lives, you risk your families, you risk your future to go and get, information for the leaders to act, and they say they will not act. I sit here, I talk. I don't go and get that type of data. I don't risk my life as much as you do. So if journalists...
Like Erastus has been doing. And sometimes it gets really tiring coming to sit here and say it because, you've said it time and again.
So in that case, it is not about lack of political will. It is just about what? We are complicit and...
Okay. Now, speaking of that complicity, you heard the CEO of the Ghana Cocoa Board and what he had to say about... it's clear. 13% Isaac Ofie-Adjei. Now you're saying per that outfit's predictions, it could be 10% in 2025. It could very well mean that by 2030, if something monumental is not done, Ghana could actually be off the map in terms of being a cocoa producing country. And do you know what that would mean? Some of us grew up throughout our childhood. What are some of the things Ghana is known for? Cocoa and all of that. I've traveled to places. It's a pride picking up cocoa and knowing that, 40% from Ghana, premium cocoa from here. A time could come when, thanks to misleadership, you will not find that again. Can you imagine that? So how do you react to the Ghana Cocoa Board CEO and what he's saying?
Well, I was on that program with him. We shared a number of...
Indeed, you were there together with the other lady.
With him.
But do you agree with what he's saying? And is enough being done?
Even for some of us, we saw it coming years back. We saw it coming. Because, you see, Ghana was once upon a time not a producer of cocoa.
Indeed.
Cocoa was brought into this country. We started producing it. We scaled up to be the number one. Côte d'Ivoire came and overtook us. We had since been declining. And when we hear that China is also growing cocoa, then we say that, it will not happen. When we hear another country growing cocoa, we think that we can still always be there. It's just like a right. When you acquire a right, you must protect that right. What we are doing is that we have decided, apart from even galamsey, tell us, let's ask, how do we still go on producing cocoa in this country? Look, if you have 1,000 cocoa pots, you have to sit down and count all of them. Open them with a cutlass. Cut them, open everything. You can't continue with that type of production, method into the future. You should be able to carry them, put them into a machine.
They must be mechanized.
It will mechanize. It will open, take all that, and give. This is what we are still doing. So you see that we are even bound to lose our position. We are bound to lose.
In fact, we've been in that position for far too long, even without thinking, because every country is mechanizing. You're still using the same old rustic, old, basic methods, and you think...
And again, why would Cocoa Board, a huge institution over 70 years of existence, we have designed the system in such a way that every year they have to go for a loan to be able to operate.
Yeah.
It can't be. It can't be. Cocoa Board should have been the institution that will set up other institutions.
The last time they made profit was 2015.
And since then, of course, one will say that because they have a public role to play, a public duty role to play, it's not actually meant...
It's not so much for profit, but the point too is that they can. If they've not made profit for 9 years now, it's a problem.
It's a problem. And because if they do not get the syndicated loan, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
And we've seen how those who have been given the syndicated loan make sure that they squeeze Ghana to a point where you accept conditions that are not good. They will come.
Your hands are tied.
They will come and give you the loan at the time that even the purchasing season is halfway or almost coming to an end. And when the farmers, you don't have the money to go and buy the cocoa from the farmers, they will get frustrated. Then they will begin to smuggle it out.
Is it possible to get out of that cycle, that vicious cycle we've had? And these questions you're posing, these things you're saying, I've said over time. It makes no sense.
It can happen.
For how many decades you've had a syndicated, you rely on this. So if some year there are global shocks and you don't get that money, what happens to your cocoa production?
And you see, what it used to be is that it isn't that we started with going to the syndicated, to collect syndicated loan. It used to be Bank of Ghana financing cocoa purchases here. Now, with this model, where we now go for syndication, all the benefits that go with loan goes to the foreign banks. But all the benefits that go with loan would have actually stayed with us if it is Bank of Ghana that finances it. And Bank of Ghana should be able to do that because this is purely business.
The Bank of Ghana is busy facilitating other business that has nothing to do with something like this.
So it can be done. So my view is that Bank of Ghana should start to finance what? Cocoa.
And that Bank of Ghana bid, in this week, I'll have time for the Bank of Ghana on certain points. But Isaac, so you wanted to say something on that?
Well, I was just saying that, I mean, going for the cocoa syndicated loan, to me, is not a bad idea because the reason why we programmed Cocoa Board in such a way to be able to attract such huge loan was that we know that as a country, at every point in time, we suffer forex losses and our CD goes into a certain form of, depreciation. And so when you have Cocoa Board attracting, formerly they used to attract $1 billion. So just imagine one institution, a state-owned enterprise like Cocoa Board, bringing in $1 billion for us to be able to show up our CD. It wasn't a bad idea, but if you have Cocoa Board bringing in that $1 billion and you also don't have other systems to manage that $1 billion, what we see is that Cocoa Board doesn't just borrow from cocoa syndicated loan. They also do cocoa bills. Now, all those who bought the cocoa bills, remember, a year ago, were asked to come for a haircut. Remember the story of, I think, his name just escaped me, but he bought cocoa bills, and since, I think, in 9 months or 8 months, has not been able to get what he's due, his coupon payment, and all of those things. And Cocoa Board had to restructure their debt. So it's way beyond just getting the money, but how to manage that money, for instance, is the problem. And I'm looking at how cocoa used to bring in forex in terms of the first 2 months of every year. Just last year, January and February, we were able to get $711.5 million from cocoa export. Guess what, Ben? 2024, the first 2 years, we've lost over $200 million. Now we are doing somewhere $580 million.
My point, though, is this. While the figures may look attractive, because, of course, again, we do not manage our currency well. The economy is always wobbling. So it is always in our interest to get as many dollars, greenbacks, as we can get into the system. But if we managed it internally, had the central bank, get this, the boons that come with it, it is boom and bust on the international front.
Everything stays here.
If we were able to harness that and make this homegrown, we avert the shocks of this syndicated loan from different fronts, and then we can make even more of that profit than what we are being given.
If Bank of Ghana is the reason why cocoa companies or maybe confectionery companies in Ghana are not surviving is because, let's say you are a cocoa company in Ghana and you are buying beans, you need to buy at the prevailing market rate, which is in dollars. Let's assume you're a company, budget $1 to 10 cedis from the beginning of the year, now it's 14 cedis. Your capital has been eroded by a certain significant point.
By 40%.
Absolutely. So now, even Bank of Ghana, it's just like the gold for oil deal. When Bank of Ghana is buying the gold, they are buying at prevailing dollar rates. We should ask ourselves, Bank of Ghana as it stands now, do they have what it takes, the dollars to buy cocoa from cocoa?
But we all know that as it stands now, based on their own caps and freezes and everything, and especially on the about 60 billion Ghana cedi loss, they are nowhere near being able to do something. So but then again, it is the same politicians who led us to where we are. But let me come back to you, Edward Kariwe. I want us to move on to other crops, but quickly. What would it take to bring a rescue mission for our cocoa? In about a minute, I want you to address that. Then we'll move to other crops.
A rescue mission.
I am not happy about the way, because if someone like you can't map out from where we are now, you can't see a clear way to a rescue mission, then it means we're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
We are in big trouble. There's no immediate rescue mission. the immediate rescue mission is to ensure that, one, we stop out galamsey immediately. Yeah. We are able to stop smuggling, because these are illegal activities and they are forbidden by our laws, and we must do that. Unfortunately, are we ready to do that? We are not ready. So it's difficult to say that you can isolate cocoa alone, because you see, because cocoa is also situated within the agricultural sector, the entire environment, our agricultural policy would also impact heavily on cocoa. Even though cocoa, out of the gamut of different agricultural activities, cocoa stands out, it is also still situated within the agricultural sector. And you see, the point about we need to go back gradually to reclaim our status and be able to finance cocoa. You see, the syndicated loan thing, that is the reason why we have to do the forward selling. Sales, yeah. The forward sales. If you want the loan, then they will say, okay, sell so much to us so that we can be sure of. Otherwise, we'll not give you that loan. So they make sure that they squeeze you, and then you sell at a price that you will not have sold.
It will never be in your interest.
It will never be in your interest.
And Ben, in fact, we are supposed to start deliberations and then also bringing together different banks to form a syndicate for the next season's loans.
Yes.
But we are not sure the beans will get the following season. And so we are not able to do that currently.
And because they are the farmer, where we said, some of us, we know that they play a lot of economic politics when it comes to determining the syndicated loan.
And it's because we have given them, we have put our fingers in their mouths, and they will bite you.
Yeah. The banks will withdraw at last minute in participating in the syndicated loan.
That's what happened to us this planting season. We're looking for 1 billion. We ended up getting 800. The remaining 200 million.
And that was even good.
It delayed.
It could have been worse.
Even delayed, and we had some of the farmers selling to other people.
It could have been worse. Well, it is clear that we're in a bad place, a very bad place when it comes to cocoa. And I am personally very disappointed about how things have turned out. But let's quickly look. It's a spiral effect. It's not just cocoa. Because if the land is getting destroyed, the chemicals that, there are some metals, for example, that are kept at certain layers of our earth, not meant to come to a certain level. When they do, plants wilt, they wither, they die. Unfortunately, on the back of galamsey and other illegal activities, this is what is happening. How about other crops?
Well, the danger you see with cocoa is even worse with other crops.
Like?
Because cocoa is a perennial crop. So its resistance is higher than that of those crops that are not perennial.
Like which ones?
If you talk about maize, if you talk about cassava, if you talk about plantain, they grow and then you cut them, then they come up. They are not as resistant as that of the cocoa.
And I guess the roots and tubers are worse off because they are embedded in there. They absorb everything.
Yes. So now what we are doing is that any agricultural activity around that area is destroyed.
In those galamsey-prone areas.
Galamsey-prone areas. You talk about pawpaw, you talk about vegetables. What water are you going to use to water the vegetables? What water is going to be used for the maize? When the maize falls on the soil, and you pick it up, what has happened to it? If it is rice, all the water, rice likes water. Yeah. They are in the valleys. Which water? How clean is that water? So by the time that rice will come out, then that rice is poisoned. And you see, the other thing is that, as we advance in technology, we are able to discover things that we were either not able to. The phytosanitary measures that are put before exporting to the European countries continuously change. And because a time will come, if we are not able to stop the galamsey, Ghana's cocoa, however little that we even export, we produce,
will not be able to sell anyway.
We cannot export it because they can have alternative, like the Ecuador, Brazil,
even Nigeria, next door Nigeria,
Cameroon,
Côte d'Ivoire.
which are Côte d'Ivoire. You know, because they are coming up, so it will get to a point. You say, look, please, your cocoa is infested with heavy metals, is poisoned. We cannot take it. So it's not about what you come to have at that time. That is the risk. Apart from that, all of it, you see, I listen once in a while because I cannot all the time be on radio to be listened to. But when I tune in to Joy and I listen to, and the different types of researchers who have gone around there and done work, and you see that children are born without genitalia, they are born
lots of
without
deformities
and so on. Tell me, what is it? But of course, again, it's a matter we just have to take the decision. I believe that we only need a decision. But unfortunately, when you talk this, they will think that, you are interested in politics. But you see, politics is affecting us negatively.
Right.
My life is at stake. The future of my children is at stake. Everybody, it's not me alone. But the thing is, when you talk about community mining, and which I can hear the politicians are now trying to promote community mining, as if community mining is different from illegal mining.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Go there and see.
On paper, it may seem different, but the reality is the same.
It is illegal mining. And I will tell you that, go and look at rubber plantations. They are encroached upon by this galamsey, oil palm. Even they go there and fight the workers and the moneymen there. So by the next 10 years onwards, those companies will not have land to continue to produce rubber, to continue to produce oil palm and the rest. So you see, the cascading effect is not only about cocoa, but beyond cocoa.
And there are other cash crops and food crops.
And again.
Maybe the final point.
Yeah, my final point is that, you see, we know land has alternate uses.
Yeah.
You can use it for oil palm. When it gets sometime, you think that you don't want it, you can cut down those trees and use it for maize or use it for rubber. This time, the destruction is permanent and irreversible. The destruction that is caused by galamsey to the lands is what? Permanent and irreversible.
In other words, you can't do anything with it.
You can't do, because we don't have the resources as a country, we don't have the technology, we don't have the capacity to reclaim those lands. Our rivers are silted. We don't have the resources and technology to dredge those rivers.
Mr. Karewe.
I'm sorry, but that is it. And have you seen a country without rivers? This is where we are going to get to.
Well, apart from the Volta River, I don't know which ones are surviving now in Ghana. We are gradually getting there. Back then, you could go on an excursion to the Ankobra, the Pra,
yeah. And let me tell you what is
that.
happening in Burkina Faso.
Your children will not be able to do that because the Ankobra is like, it's like some beverage.
Let me tell you what is happening in Burkina Faso. What they do, they are...
We really have to go, but just that final point.
They go to the forest, dig boreholes, and dig ponds, pump the water into the boreholes, and get back to the cities and allow the animals, the wild animals, to also drink water. Because they starve. Dry season, there's no water. That's what they now do. So they are not concerned about they themselves alone, but they are wild animals.
For us, we are killing ourselves, and killing future generations. It's time to go. Is it that you have something to...
Well, maybe a last comment, and this is from Dr. Richmond.
We have to be quick with it.
Yes, he says that you need to stop galamsey. If you do that, you can increase cocoa production. Cocoa Board must also stop employing too many people, which have increased their operational costs. So according to Dr. Isuahene, if you are able to put a stop to galamsey, production will automatically go up.
Gentlemen, thank you for having joined the conversation. Edward Karewe is General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. Isaac Ofieje is here with me. He is here with us. He is a data analyst. Need we say more? Asemino, no. Intino. Befa no afa. Toasuma na toasum. Onfanswa yenina yetimubi. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. We'll be right back. I'll be joined by Sweetie Abochi, and then we'll give you our photo of the day, and we'll say goodbye. Stay with us. We'll be right back.